We're going to start with chapter 9. Okay. So we're actually starting on the real journey now, because chapter 1 through 8 was basically giving us the vocabulary, terminology, the ingredients, and now we're actually going to start to see how it relates to our service of Hashem. So
last week you talked about all the shells.
Yeah. So up until now, chapters 1 through 8 was just basically a vocabulary list. In chapter 1, we discussed, we said there's 3 different types of categories of people: tzaddik, Beinoni, and Rasha. We didn't really know the difference. But Beinoni is someone that never sins. How is he different than a tzaddik? And we introduced the concept of 2 souls. We spoke a little bit about the animal soul. Chapter 2, you always know what chapter 2 is talking about, because chapter 2 is talking about the second soul, the godly soul. Chapter 3 is talking about the anatomy of the godly soul, the seven emotional capacities, and the 3 intellectual capacities. The 3 intellectual capacities actually come first. Obviously, it's a parent-child relationship, which we discussed. Chapter 3 is what the soul is. Chapter 4 is what the soul does, and what the soul puts on, which are its clothing, the action, speech, and thought. Chapter 5 is Torah study. If chapter 4 is what I put on, chapter 5 is what I put into me. And chapter 6 is the composition and the models of expression of the animal soul. Everything that we said about the godly soul, just from the animal soul's the animal soul's capacities. And chapter 7, we speak about how to elevate the non-mitzvah stuff. So we spoke about the Likkutei. So in chapter 6, it's about the good and evil within me. Chapter 7 and 8 is the good and evil within the world. And now we're going to speak about the actual war and how it manifests inside of me. So in Koheles, Shlomo Melech gives a parable of welcome. And Mazel Tov. Shlomo Melech gives a parable of a small city. And he says that there are 2 kings that are fighting for complete control of the city. There's an old foolish king and there's a young wise king. Who is the small city? The small city is me and you, right? Each and every one of us is a small city. And who are the inhabitants? Who are the citizens of the city? Those are the limbs of our body. And the war is between these 2 kings. So it's basically like 2 guys that both have the keys to the same car. And the question is, who is going to drive that car? Who is going to be in the driver's seat? Okay. So who's the old foolish king? The Yetzer Hora, or the animal soul. So I'll just explain the difference between the animal soul and the Yetzer Hora. So basically 2 parts of the same thing. The animal soul, when we speak about the animal soul is specifically more about the Sicha, about the intellectual part of the opposite of holiness. It's the force that we use to get us what we want. How can I get what I want? And how do I not feel guilty about getting this thing? While the Yetzer Hora, that is the yearning, that's the passion, that's the impulse. While the animal soul is like the rational part, the Yetzer Hora is the urge, the impulse for the opposite of holiness. Okay. So the old foolish king is the animal soul. He's older. We introduced him first. That's why he's considered old, because That's what we're born with, the impulse to, our needs need to be met when the tiny baby wakes up in the middle of the night crying that he's hungry. So that's not a bad thing, but that's coming from the animal soul. So the animal soul is the old foolish king, and the wise young king, the one that comes in later, is the godly soul. Now, the problem is that they're not interested in a two-state solution. One day we'll do what you want, the next day we'll do what you want. We'd all take turns. They're not willing to do that. Each one wants that your body should be a vehicle to express itself 100% of the time. So when the godly soul walks into a room, what is it looking for? Right away, it's looking for an opportunity for a mitzvah. That's what it wants. I see someone that needs help. I feel the urge to help them. Now I need the body. Welcome. Now I need the body to walk over to that person. I need my mouth to be able to speak to the person and say a kind word. Okay, so the godly soul wants to act, but it needs the body's cooperation. Now, so you have we never really spoke about this, but there's something called the nefesh hasichlis, which is the intellectual soul. The nefesh hasichlis is like the in-between. You have these two kings, and who's going to actually decide who's going to win? It's the intellectual soul. So each king comes with their, with their desire, and the intellectual soul is you who actually decides what to do at the end. It listens to both sides. So the godly soul is saying, give me the feet, give me the mouth, so I could do it, so that I could do what I need to do. Now, the godly soul wants that the body should belong to him, and he should have autonomy over the body. Not that every single time I want to do something, I have to start signing contracts and making conditions and asking permission. It wants automatically to be able to use the body whatever it wants to do. Just like my hand. My hand wants a cup of water. I don't have to think about it. I don't even have to tell the hand what to do. The hand automatically just takes the cup and picks it up. That's how the godly soul wants to be. It wants to be a vehicle to do what Hashem wants, and it doesn't want to have to wait or make conditions or have discussions. It wants full autonomy over the body. Okay. The animal soul has the opposite desires. It has a different kind of wish list, and it needs the same body. So we could understand the tension and the conflict that goes on inside of us every minute, because we have these two opposite souls that each want to claim 100% of the same thing. Now, each one thinks that the other one's agenda is going to get it killed. So if the animal soul wants some brownies, the godly soul, wants the brownies just because it tastes good, or whatever it is. The godly soul says, no, that's going to get us killed, because if you don't eat it for the sake of heaven, you're not close, you're not connecting to Hashem right now. Then you're killing us, and the other way around. It's Friday afternoon, and you want to close your store to go home and get ready for Shabbos, and the animal soul says, no, you can't do it. We need to earn money. If I go home and close my store on Shabbos, then you're going to kill me. I'm not going to have a livelihood. So each one thinks that the other one's agenda is out to kill them. So it's a real serious war over here. Okay. And souls don't lie. Each soul wants what it wants, and it's not willing to compromise, because each soul is. It
says in the Tanya 100%. It says it out.
Yeah.
Like, oh wow.
Yeah. It wants it. Yeah. No. It's 100%. Yeah. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you, it might not say it in exactly those words, but the degree of autonomy, that's what defines who you are. That means if the godly soul has 100% autonomy, then you don't have evil impulses and urges, and then you are a tzaddik. So according to how much the godly soul's dream is to have 100% autonomy. Does he always get it? It depends on who you are. So the degree of autonomy that the godly soul has, that's how you know, that's your definition of who you are. And in the next chapters, 10, 11, 12, we're going to actually go into the differences between a tzaddik and a rasha and a benini. So that's why you needed all this information from chapters 1 to 8, so that when you get into the actual service, you have the terminology to know what you're talking about, to know what you're dealing with, to know who are the players. Now we're talking about the game of chess, but to know what you're dealing with. Okay. Okay, so we hear the godly soul's dream, but practically, what is the godly soul want? Because the animal soul is here. Most of us will never be tzaddikim. So, what is the godly soul's dream? The godly soul says the animal soul, he could stay here if he wants, but he has to swear his allegiance to me. He has to be my worker. He can't be another king, can't be co-king. One day, we'll switch off, no. Okay, so the godly soul, as uncomfortable as it is in the body, only in the body, by being in the body, it actually benefits greatly.
Benefits what?
The godly soul benefits tremendously when it's in a body. Why? Because in heaven, the godly soul can experience godliness, but it's still separate. I love Hashem. I fear Hashem. There's me and there's God. It's two separate things. So you could see incredible stuff. But what the godly soul really wants is to be one with God. And the only way that is possible is through doing a mitzvah. So when the godly soul comes down here, it's so covered up with so many layers that it's like it can't see anything. It can't see what it could accomplish. It doesn't have the pleasure that it has in heaven. But only here could it get what it really wants is oneness with God. That's why the neshama comes down here. But the neshama by itself can't get anything done. It needs the body and it needs the animal soul. The animal soul is the motor. The animal soul is what gets your hand to move to light Shabbos candles. So the ability to function and to do our daily tasks comes from the animal soul. So the godly soul really, not only does the godly soul need the body, the godly soul needs the animal soul to achieve this oneness that it so desires. Okay.
Yeah, because it needs a competition.
No, I'm looking at it like
I think we're striving.
okay, maybe my world, the ego and the super ego and the id. You're familiar with that? Oh, okay, so then
No, go for it.
I should.
Yeah, absolutely.
And God of the soul.
Yeah, no, honey,
It seems like the animal soul is the
Driving
practical
force.
or physical part.
Yes.
So the godly
That's
soul
what I was
does,
gonna add.
right.
It's a driving force. It's forcing
And the
you
godly
to
soul,
do something. So then you have to think, oh my gosh,
the
is
godly
that a
soul needs the
mitzvah?
body.
Is that Hashem? It's not
maybe
the Yetzer Hora, but it's the force that's pushing you to do things.
okay, maybe you're thinking physical. Physical is God is what Honey is saying, that God's in order to get to the spiritual place, it has to be in the body. So how does the body, what do you do with that body to get it to there? What are you doing? So that's the piece. What are you doing? Is it passion? Is it you eating a strawberry? What are you doing to? Am I?
No, 100%.
I don't know. I'm not so sure about.
Think back to what are your intentions? You're eating strawberries.
Exactly.
Not
And
intentions.
then-
I feel like it has to do with the body. Honey, sharing. To you get close to Hashem, you needed, the soul needs
Need
to
the
enter a
physicality.
body, right? The physical of the body.
No,
it's two different things.
Soul drives the physical.
Yeah. The body by itself, Hashem, after a person passes away, the body is still there, but the body is lifeless. So what's giving the body the life is of course, it's the godly soul is giving you is the neshama, but the physical ability for your hands to move, for your feet to move, to breathe, the physical day-to-day life, life force is actually coming from the animal soul. And that's why a non-Jew also lives. The non-Jew doesn't have a godly soul. So however the non-Jew is, whatever the non-Jew does, how does it get its life force? It's getting its life force from the animal soul. So all the functions that a non-Jew does when he is alive, that gets its energy from the animal soul, the same applies to us. The godly soul is a second soul that is inside of us, that gives us the ability that it's the second king, and it gives us the ability to rise above the selfishness and above the survival mode, and to be able to be selfless and to be able to serve God and to put ourselves aside, so to speak. So the non-Jews don't have that, but just if you think in those terms, there's a body, there's an animal soul, there's a godly soul. Each one has a function, but in a way, the animal soul has an advantage, and in a way, the godly soul has an advantage. The animal soul's advantage is that it's kind of closer to the body, and it actually makes the body work. So think of it like this: the godly soul is in the center, the animal soul is around it, and then is the body. So the animal soul has closer access to the body. Okay, but as much as everything is, trying to everything has to be equal. There's at the end of the day, there's a massive difference between the godly soul and the animal soul. Right. So, yes.
How do you visualize a soul? I'm wondering if that's helpful.
Wow. It says that. Yeah. Hashem Nishmas Adam.
Just because I have another name, sorry, so I'm asking you. I like my name, so I have another name, so.
Now the show must do.
Right.
Right, so point it in.
For years, you take care of your body.
Yeah, yes, and we keep saying that we have to in our mind, animal soul is evil, but it's not true. Animal soul is basically neutral. It's what you want, what are you going to do with it? It can go either way, which is what we spoke about last class. But the incredible difference between them is that, of course, the godly soul is aligned with God's will, right? Hashem's will is for us to do Torah and mitzvahs, and that's the godly soul wants. Now, guess what?
Soul's also aligned with.
The animal soul is also aligned with the godly soul. I'm sorry, with God. The animal soul is also aligned with God. How so? So in the end of chapter 9, the Alter brings another example of a Zaina. Basically, there's a king, and he has a prince, and he wants the prince to become a man. He wants to challenge him. He wants him to grow. He wants to test him to bring out the best in him. So he hires a woman who doesn't have such a good reputation, and he hires her, and her job is to try to get the son to sin and to trip and to fall. So she has to do her job because the king commanded her to do this job. So she has to do her job all the way. She has to do what she has to do. But the truth is that her deepest desire is that the prince should not fail. So the godly soul wants what the godly soul wants because it really wants it. The animal soul doesn't really want what it wants.
I love this. This is so up my alley.
It doesn't really want you to give in. It's here to challenge you, but it doesn't want you to give in.
Remember that thing on the radio used to come up, this is a test. Emergency alerts, testing system, that alarm will go off.
It's just a test. It's just a test to make you stronger and to prove how loyal and how royal you are. Yeah. So you think that this is this animal soul, it's this thing that's just ruining your life. But it's all it's trying to do is just trying to do its job. And this obstacle, it's not just an obstacle outside of me. Hashem put an obstacle inside of me that I have to fight with all the time. But ultimately, its agenda is really to make me come closer to Hashem. But we have.
I was thinking that.
So it's not really equal because I hear what you're saying because the chess pieces are the same. The powers are the same. You both have 3 intellectual powers. You both have 7 emotional powers. You both have 3 garments of expression. So the players are the same. The players are the same. The advantage that the godly soul has is that it's closer to the body, but the disadvantage is that it's phony. It doesn't really want what it wants. And ultimately, what we have to know is that ultimately there's only one Hashem. There's one power. And there's really one force. Right. So we can't let our guard down because the animal soul is professional and has to do its job. But don't get scared and don't give up. When challenges seem unsurmountable, you just have to know that really there's only one Hashem, one power, one force, and everything else is just is an obstacle to test you. But ultimately, we don't have to be afraid of it, and we don't have to give in to it because it's really really there's only one Hashem and one power and one force, and this whole thing is just it's just a show. It's just fake.
What happened to the boy? The story.
Of course, the boy resisted. Absolutely.
Instead of the word test, I would rather use the word challenge because it's challenging us to grow.
Absolutely.
That's what the animal soul is doing. It's not so much testing us as challenging us to grow.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
It's also feeding our instant impulses, our primal satisfaction. In order to, there's so many pieces.
Yes.
Okay.
It comes from also.
Yes, and it's a plane. What color is the plane?
I know.
What do you do for a living?
Oh, me?
Red
The red.
Okay, so now this is the end of chapter, just a summary of chapter 9. And now we're going to take it to the Parsha. Now, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how every time it's saying the same thing. What's going on in Parshas Shelach? The Meraglim. There are Jews. They have to go to war with the enemy. And what happens? They're scared. And what happens? The Jews come to Moshe and they say, we want to send spies to spy out the land. And what does Moshe do? He goes to Hashem. And what does Hashem say? Shlach lecha. It's up to you. Your judgment. What is going on here? Moshe doesn't do anything without Hashem's consent. Ultimately, Hashem does give him permission because it says in the pasuk that he sent the men al pi Hashem. It was with Hashem's consent. Okay, was sending the spies something good or something not good?
Not good. Because you represent the lack of faith.
Hashem did not directly command them.
He
came out of fear.
Under duress.
He gave his permission. He gave his permission. Hashem already told.
He said he could, all right.
If that's what you want.
I like that.
Or I have to say, okay, because if I say no,
You do it anyway.
if I say no, then you're going to say, okay, for sure I don't want to go into the land, right? Or for you know, if you, then what are you hiding, right? If your kid wants to do something and you say no, then they're going to fight for it stronger. If you say yes, I support you, and you support them all the way, it could be that by themselves they'll say, you know what, I'm not ready for this.
So remember that Hashem told
When it doesn't work, they'll
Yeah.
remember.
No, or they'll say,
They
know where to come.
Abstract. It's an abstract example.
or they say that I am ready for this, whatever it is. But the
Well, you have to build a relationship first with your kid, and your kid has to feel safe in order for them to even speak to you in the first place. For time.
So now what you're bringing up is that
Oh.
even in the mitzvah, we're still home.
Yeah.
so,
The fear. The fear.
wow.
You can't blame them in
It's
a
so
way. They
true,
were
Sari.
not soldiers. Wow, these people were slaves. And to expect them to become soldiers and fight.
Or
that
trust,
wasn't
lack of
very
trust, they have
justified.
to build up, like you said.
On the other hand, they experienced the giving of the Torah. They experienced great miracles. There was no generation that was greater than them.
Right,
Wow.
that's true.
Okay,
I think
so
they allow the, well, we see the
Obviously,
Chelek
they
to
didn't have
enter,
the,
like their
their
animal soul,
confidence.
let their animal soul win. Perhaps. That's a good point.
Oh, they did the ego because they got.
Because they had been just. nothing
Maybe they
had been
stopped
up to them.
seeing, they needed to see, and
You know, that happened.
the fear of not
It
seeing
happened for
it
somebody else.
and
they
trusting,
had.
they didn't have a lot of freedom.
They didn't have a lot of freedom of
Lack
choice.
of total trust.
They didn't get their
Well,
own
today we're
food.
like
They
down in
didn't grow their
the,
own vegetables.
down,
or-
down. Where's God, where's God, how's God, I mean, yeah.
They actually did have.
It's like you can be more in road than.
So
we have
they
children.
didn't-
They don't want.
Yeah. That belief.
We gotta become a part of them.
We become a part of it.
And
And now you're asking them to go and fight something.
I always wonder,
Because they want to know. Whatever.
I know, but they were so much
Okay,
cleaner.
I'm going to follow the structure of the poem. You should have it on your phone or hard copy. To discuss what exactly is going on here, to get a real glimpse into the real story here. Okay, the Yidden came to Moshe and said, to spy out the land, let us send men ahead. Moshe asked Hashem what to do. Hashem said, Shlach lecha, it's up to you. But Moshe would never make his own decision. Hashem did give permission for this mission. Moshe sent them, according to the word of Hashem, the pasuk does say. Since we shouldn't rely on miracles, sending the spies was okay. So yes, the Yidden are on a very, very high level. On the other hand, we don't rely on miracles, and it was okay to send the spies, or at least let's say for sure neutral. Okay? Why did Hashem leave the matter up to Moshe entirely?
Was he hoping Moshe would say no?
Okay, we're going to see. Why does Hashem not command them to send spies? Why is it something that's coming from the people? Why is it Moshe asking Hashem for this? And why is this matter left up to Moshe? Why does Hashem say, Shlach lecha, it's up to you? You could have just said, I give you permission. Hashem puts it in Moshe's court. That's one question. And two, since the spies were chosen by Moshe and were worthy, how did they change so drastically to fail in their mission and cause death and tragedy? It says, Shlach lecha nashim. They were men. They were the heads of the tribes. They were great tzaddikim. It wasn't just anybody. They were such great men, and sending them wasn't a problem. It wasn't a problem. Again, it's all about the intention, which we'll get into. But sending them was not a problem, and he chose the best of the best. And what went wrong here? Okay. The explanation that is given is that there are two ways to serve our Father in heaven. They are found in the promise that we made at the Sinai mountain. Nasa v'nishma, we will do and we will listen. Basically, there's nasa and there's nishma. Nasa means we will do. Whatever you say, Hashem, we're going to do. No questions asked. It's Kabbalah's all. I'm subservient to Hashem. I'm your servant. Whatever you say, I'm going to do. And then the second thing is nishma. Nishma is I'm going to listen, and it means I'm going to understand, where I'm going to use my intellect to understand. And those are two different ways of serving Hashem. Nasa comes first. First, we have to have the Kabbalah's all, that we understand that we're Hashem's servants, and whatever Hashem says goes. And then another aspect is that we're not going to be robots. We're also going to use our intellect to understand as much as we could and to connect as much as we could. Both are part of how we serve Hashem. When serving Hashem, the foundation is to do whatever Hashem does command. But Hashem also wants us to listen and understand. Hashem already told the Yidden that the land was prosperous and great, but he wanted that with their own minds, the land they should appreciate. Okay, so he didn't want it to be, I command you to go into the land, now go. He wanted it to come from us. He wanted us to be excited about it, to have joy, to want it, to desire it. He wanted that it shouldn't just be that we're going because we're commanded to, but we're going because we want to, and we understand that it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Okay. There were two goals to their mission. One, about how to practically conquer the land. They had to gather information. Two, the spies were told to be courageous and risk their lives to bring fruit that the Yidden could see with their eyes. There were two goals. Figure out what's the best way to conquer this land, and to bring back the fruit, even though it would endanger their life.
Why? Who told them that?
Moshe.
Because they would know that he was there. Right,
Because-
they send them as spies, so you think they would believe them? They're representing the representatives. Why would they have to bring back the fruit?
I guess,
Just like they're going to be the ones to
I
strategize.
guess Moshe just wanted them to see it with their own eyes.
Right. So here it's going to say this in the next paragraph.
So they don't have any trouble believing it in the first place. Otherwise, they wouldn't have needed the spies.
By seeing the fruit, it would give them the excitement to go into the land, by seeing how luscious and big and delicious it is. Okay. Hashem wanted that sending spies should be Moshe's decision, so that on their own, the Yidden should reach the conclusion that over their enemies, they would be victorious, and they would be motivated to go from seeing fruit that was so tremendous. So the goal of sending spies, it wasn't about if, it was about how. It was the problem that you see. If you're going to spy the land to know what's the best way to conquer it, and because you want to bring back fruit to excite the people, then it's a wonderful thing to send spies. Because ultimately, if the spies can go, and with their intellect, they could say, guys, this is the best way. We figured it out. We have a strategy, how we're going to do this. And here, look at the fruit. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. The land is so wonderful. Sorry. Then that's the goal. And then you're being true to the goal. And then sending the spies is a wonderful thing. But the premise is that it had to be how are we going to conquer this land? How are we going to excite the people? When it's if, that's the problem. Talk about marriage for a second. If you have two people that get married, and then there's a bump along the way, and the couple or the wife or the husband are questioning, is this marriage gonna last? If I do this, then am I out the door? If you behave or do what you're supposed to do, then the marriage is gonna stick. And if not, then it's gonna fall apart. Then a marriage can't grow like that. If the one spouse is thinking that if I make one wrong move, I'm out. But if the marriage is based on how are we going to get this to last? We're married. It's obviously hashgacha pratis. It's meant to be. Although we're different, how are we going to make this work? Then both parties are secure, and we can make it work. Then the relationship could grow. So the problem here was that when they came back with their report, they basically, and they said the people are so strong and this and that. They doubted. They made the Jews doubt about about if they should or shouldn't go. But it wasn't. They weren't sent to find out should we or shouldn't we go. That wasn't the goal. That wasn't what they went for. That wasn't what they were sent for. They were sent to find out how to conquer, not if to conquer.
Yeah, but they were given a choice, so that's why they went that way. Once you're given a choice.
Once you're given a choice, there's a problem.
Why were they given a choice?
Because
he didn't instruct them to do whatever it is.
he did not instruct them to send the spies. Did he?
No, Hashem let them send the spies. So Moshe didn't instruct them what to do. He just said, go.
No, he told them what to do. He told them.
So he did instruct them.
He
Tell them why
He's
not
saying.
what did he say?
Did he tell them it's not about if, it's about what?
Yes, he's told them that your goal is. He told them. So what happens is.
He did tell them.
Why did you say then that they had a choice? Hashem said they have a choice then.
They didn't have a choice. They weren't
You just
supposed
said they had to
say,
choose.
We can't do it. They
Well,
were
Honey
supposed to
said-
say how we can. And you know something? I think that's the answer to this whole thing. If you approach mitzvahs with the idea, it's not if, it's how.
I think if goes
How
with
you
why
do it?
and how goes with when.
Then it's, then
That's a
you're
good
gonna
one.
do it.
Right, because ultimately,
And you may not achieve it, but you're gonna be thinking.
You're gonna give it
about
your best.
how
So then
you
why
can
do they
do
have
it.
stuff like that? They
You're
were
gonna
so
be-
clear.
the connection
Why
is
was
right
there
there.
friction?
If you think, should I, well, you know, you
Yeah, they
probably,
did.
if you're human, you
They
probably
chose to do
think,
something else.
but if
So
it's,
now we have to know why this tzaddik
If
did
it's
something else
how,
to do with that.
then
was
you're
into the
gonna
rules.
be thinking about, you know,
They
you're
were
gonna be
higher
working with
minded.
your soul to see how it's.
right, amazing, absolutely.
I love that.
So amazing. So the thing is that ultimately, Hashem was the direct command, go into the land. But everyone knew that the reason why they were redeemed from Egypt was so that Hashem would bring them into the promised land. It was going out of Egypt was just step one. The goal was to go into the land. So that was ultimate. So did we have a choice? Maybe we didn't have a choice. Maybe we were. That's where we were going to end up. That was the plan. That was the original. That was the original thing. Hashem freed us from Egypt so that we should be free to serve Him.
But they're gonna be in the desert forever?
Okay, you're asking.
They decided, okay, we blasted here, we're fine. Why find
They
it?
weren't thinking.
They were happy then.
You're asking a very good.
They didn't know what to think.
Same with the cucumber, they want to stay, right?
Right. So in a different teaching. Right.
But they didn't find it.
In a
Nobody likes change.
You put one forest and walk another way. That's
But, honey, I don't agree with that. I know many people that like change.
I'm saying, but general.
Human beings don't like change,
If
period.
you're happy in a certain place, why would you want to change?
I
Because by
don't,
nature, you want to say, oh.
I don't wanna go off topic, but.
Even when you're
it's
not
50-50.
happy, you're not gonna change because it's hard to change.
They have that.
So because they were such a high generation, they were the highest generation that ever existed. No one else saw the splitting of the sea and the mun or the miracles. There were never such miracles like that generation, the experiencing the giving of the Torah. So in a different teaching, the Rebbe explains that the spies came back and said a bad report because ultimately all they wanted to do was to sit in the desert and learn Torah. They didn't want to go into the land and have to start plowing the field. So that is definitely, one of the Hasidic interpretations for this. But here, this is something a little bit that we haven't discussed before. This is something a little bit different. Okay.
So now the question is that why did they deviate if they had explicit instructions?
The question. So let's see. What was their mistake? What was the mistake of the Meraglim? The mistake of the Meraglim is that after collecting true information, they added, "We cannot ascend," which was their own conclusion. To find out the easiest way that Eretz Yisrael could be conquered was their mission. Whether it was possible to enter the land or not was not up to them to determine. The mistake was that they came to their own conclusion. So the advantage would have been if they would have gone, the spies would have gone, and they would have scattered out the land and come back and say, guys, the best way to conquer this land is from the south or from the north or whatever it is. This is the best way to conquer, and here is the fruit to show you what an amazing place it is. And the people would have been in their own mind. They were going to go to Eretz Yisrael, but they're going with excitement, and they know that they're going to be victorious, and they know the strategy, and then in their mind, not only are they going because they have Kabbalah soul, because this is what God said, so we have to go, but they're serving Hashem on a higher level, not just being a robot, but they're serving Hashem with their mind also, and even from the animal soul, even from the perspective of the animal soul says it's going to be good for us. We could do it. We're confident that we could do it. It's going to be great over there, and the entire person is excited to go, which would have been a great advantage. And then sending the spies would have been a good thing, because not only are we going because Hashem said so, but we're going because we want to go, not because we have to go. We're going because we want to go. The whole person is excited to go. Even the animal soul is excited to go. Oh, the fruit, the delicious fruit, that doesn't speak to the godly soul. The godly soul doesn't need physical candy, and it doesn't need spiritual candy. All it wants is to be connected to Hashem. So that's why these great people, the tzaddikim, the great people, all they wanted to do is to be connected to Hashem. They thought if we stay in the desert and we learn Torah the whole day, then this is the best thing, because they weren't thinking about elevating the world. They just all they wanted to be a tzaddik. All they wanted to do is be close to Hashem. So that's why that was their perspective. The best thing for us is to just sit and learn Torah the whole day. We'll be connected to Hashem. But the real truth is that Hashem wants more than that. Hashem wants us to elevate the world, and that's why it was a mistake. But the mistake was that they came to their own conclusion, that they determined that we can't do it, that they stuck in their own opinion. They stuck in their own opinion. You go have a mission to go find out the information. Go find out the information. Tell us the information. But to give your opinion, that was where they went wrong. Okay.
Also,
Didn't one of the spies disagree?
Yes. Kalev. Yeah. And Yeshua and Kalev. Yes. And Yeshua was the next leader. And he actually,
Machoika, I guess.
What?
Machoika was part of the decision making, I guess.
and Yeshua, he actually went to pray in Hebron that he shouldn't fall with the rest of the
Like he knew.
with the rest of them. I think both of them.
because they were as grasshoppers. They were lacking confidence. So it always comes back to our own insecurities. We don't know our value. And like you said, we're going in with doubts already. We really have to fortify ourselves by learning to see this. That helps us.
It's their fault. It's not ours. It's the Moroccans' fault.
So you can't just say it's not fault, because guess what? It's not just a story that happened then. It's a story that's happening between our animal soul and our godly soul every day, for every hour. Don't just say, oh, they made a mistake, how could they do that?
Right.
So-
Keep on learning from it, different ways.
Right. So the question is, what lesson could we learn so that in our lives, when we have this war, when we have doubts, and we have a lack of confidence, etc., how are we able to have the strength to do the right thing? And so what lesson is there for us for today? From the name of the Parsha, Shelach, a lesson we must take. So that the same mistake we shouldn't make. So the Parsha is, the name of Parsha Shelach, which means to send, right? When we use our intellect to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we do it because that is what Hashem wants of me and you. Okay, so when you serve Hashem with your intellect, there is a little bit of danger, because if you're using your intellect, if you take your intellect too far, and you say, okay, now I'm coming to, now I'm making it, that doesn't make sense, or now I'm coming to now I'm determining that we can't do it.
Right.
You're saying it.
So
You don't really have the capacity to know it.
And it doesn't matter if it makes sense or not.
Right,
Right.
but that's
You
part
have
of their
the
no.
That's
Part of the
God
faith.
commanded it.
It's part,
not
right.
Do it if it makes sense.
Right.
Intellect allows you to avoid emotions, because you can go like that, and you can just be like this. You can use that part. Intellectually.
This is a very very, very interesting thing. What's going on here? Hashem doesn't want us to just serve him because he said so. Because if you observe Shabbos just because Hashem said so, then it's a very shallow kind of service. But if you understand the beauty of Shabbos, you understand the reason why you're not working is because you're meant to use that day to focus on it's a different kind of day. It's a day that you want to focus on connecting to Hashem. It's a day to be immersed in learning. So the fact that you're not working is not just to make it inconvenient for you, but it's rather to give you an opportunity to learn and to daven, to come close to Hashem. When you understand what Shabbos is, then the way you observe Shabbos is on a totally higher level because you use your intellect. But if you use your intellect too much and you decide, hey, this doesn't make sense, then you fall off the other way.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a kind of, so it's a balance. It's a balance. You have on one hand, you have Kabbalah Soul. On the other hand, you have Sicha. So Hashem wants us to use our Sicha. But we can't forget about the Kabbalah Soul part. We can't take the Seichel too far and forget forget the foundation. You have a foundation, and then on top of the foundation, you're going to build a beautiful house. Amazing. But then you can't take away the foundation, because then what's going to happen to the house? So you need a proper balance of intellect. You need to have intellect, because then you're going to serve Hashem in a much better way. But then you can't take it too far.
What do you consider a proper intellect? Like words?
I think I said it here. I'm going to use my intellect not because of my ego, and because it's going to give me pleasure, and because if I understand, then I'm going to, then it's for my benefit. But why am I understanding? Why am I using my intellect? Because Hashem said so. Because Hashem wants it. Because Hashem's will that I should use my intellect.
Without your intellect, you're not going to understand.
Right. But I have to always remember when I'm using my intellect, that I'm using my intellect because that's what Hashem wants me to do. If I'm using my intellect because I'm using my intellect, then my intellect could get me in trouble. If I'm forgetting about Hashem, I'm forgetting that Hashem wants me to use the intellect. If I forget the Hashem part, if I forget the foundation, then the intellect is gonna get me into trouble.
Stick in the ESD part. Stick in the ESD part. I think also the intellect has to be based on knowledge that comes from soul, not. I think that's what has desire. Like we need to test and decide the intellect based on their own outside knowledge, then it's going to veer into the wrong place. But it's also important that the intellect is coming from the education you get from the
Absolutely.
Giving us the book to form your intellect, but it's not formed from that. That's where a person is.
Yeah, absolutely. That we should, the intellect that we're
Education
yeah.
comes from the book.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Wrong idea.
So how are we gonna? So in Tanya we learned you have a godly soul, you have an animal soul. There's a war going on. This is the story, and you should know that the animal soul really doesn't really want what it wants. So don't be afraid of the animal soul, because ultimately there's one power, there's one force, and don't give in to the animal soul. That's what we learned in Tanya. But the Rebbe takes it one step higher. And that's great. That's great. Everything that Tanya is saying is amazing. But still, we're human beings. We're human beings. We need a little more help. We need a little more help. And the Rebbe tells us, the Rebbe says like this: we can't mix in our own personal feelings and pleasure. We must have faith and be true to Moshe Rabeinu, our sender. In this way, we will successfully play our role. We will bring Mashiach by not losing sight of our goal. You want a little extra help. You want a little boost. We have to connect. We have to connect to Moshe Rabeinu. We have to trust Moshe Rabeinu. If Moshe Rabeinu didn't believe, if Moshe Rabeinu thought that the only way to conquer the land is through miracles, he would have never sent the spies. There's no point in sending the spies if you need a miraculous victory. If Moshe Rabeinu sent you with two goals, to find out the best way to conquer the land and to bring fruit, trust him. Trust him that he knows what he's doing, and that we could conquer this land. Because if we couldn't conquer the land in a natural way, from Moshe's perspective, we were able to conquer the land in a natural way. Of course, Hashem will always give us miracles, but even naturally, we were able to do it. And that's why he sent the spies. Because if it wasn't going to be if he didn't think it was possible to get to be victorious naturally, he would have never sent them. So sometimes we don't see the bigger picture, or we think we can't, or because our view is limited. Because we're human beings and we're our view is limited, so therefore we get scared. We get scared of the animal soul. We forget that the animal soul is just challenging us and it doesn't really want what it wants. But if you're connected to Moshe, to the leader, and you put your faith in the leader, then you know that even if you don't see the bigger picture, even if the animal soul looks scary to you, even if your enemy looks like he's unsurmountable, there's no way, we're grasshoppers in their eyes, there's no way we could do it. Then our intellect kicks in, and then we're doomed. And then there's tragedy and death. But if we're able, so the advantage, the chidush, the incredible gift that we're getting from the parsha, from the Sicha, is that we know we're not alone. We're not on our own. We have to battle this Yetzer Hora, this animal soul every single day. And sometimes it's scary, and sometimes it thinks it's impossible. I can never do this. But we know. But if we're able to, if we don't want to fall, we want to stay strong, and we don't want to make the mistake of the Meraglim. We have to connect, and we have to trust, and the leader. He has a bigger, he has a much wider view. He sees much more. He sees the truth. He sees that yes, we can. So even if you don't see that you can, trust that the leader could see that we could conquer this in a natural way, and then you. That was the problem. The problem was that they came to their own conclusion because they felt scared, and then they gave their own opinion, and then they took the intellect too far, and then that was the mistake. But what we have to do is we have to realize shlach lecha anashim. Shlach comes from the word shlichus. Each and every one of us is a shliach. We are a messenger of Hashem. We're each a messenger of Hashem, and we have a sender. We're shliach of Hashem. The spies were in a shlichus of Hashem, but their sender was Moshe Rabeinu. Moshe Rabeinu sent them. So we have a shlichus. Yes, each and every one of us is a shliach. We each have a mission. We each have something we have to do. But we have to remember who our sender is. We have to remember that Moshe Rabeinu is the one who sent us. And when all else fails, when it seems insurmountable, we have to connect, and we have to have faith in the leader, and know and believe that he has a greater vision. And yes, we can. And it's not about if we could do it, it's about how. And there's nothing that could get in the way of a Yidden conquering the land. There's nothing that could get in the way. Even if it seems, my intellect tells me it's impossible. Don't give up, because there's only one force and one power, and that's Hashem. And if Hashem wants us to go into the land, there is nothing that's going to stop us.
Thank you. Wow.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I'm glad I stayed till the end. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah,